Deep underground at the Natanz enrichment facility, the machines began to scream. It was a subtle, high-pitched whine at first, the terrifying sound of aluminum rotors spinning violently out of control, tearing themselves apart from the inside out. Yet in the sterile, brightly lit control room above, the operators stared at monitors that displayed a perfectly serene, undisturbed reality. The dials held steady. The pressure gauges registered normal. The green lights hummed with reassuring, completely fabricated safety. This was not a routine mechanical failure or a simple glitch in the system. This was a digital phantom, a meticulously engineered hallucination designed to gaslight an entire nation's nuclear program. The confusion in those subterranean halls quickly mutated into a suffocating, pervasive paranoia. Engineers scrambled frantically to replace the shattered equipment, blaming faulty parts, poor materials, the black market supply chain, and ultimately their own competence. Careers were quietly ruined. Reputations were dismantled in the dark, whispered about in closed-door meetings. The true horror lay not just in the physical destruction of the expensive equipment, but in the insidious theft of their reality. They were looking directly at the truth of their failing facility, yet they were being fed a lie so sophisticated, so flawlessly executed, that it bypassed every defense mechanism they possessed. The weapon responsible for this invisible massacre would eventually be named Stuxnet. It was an unprecedented cyber attack, a piece of malicious code so deeply complex it bordered on the realm of science fiction. Unlike the noisy, chaotic viruses that plagued personal computers to steal data or demand ransoms, this digital assassin was silent, patient, and terrifyingly precise. It did not want to steal credit card numbers or hijack email accounts for financial gain. It had a singular, physical target, and it fundamentally crossed the digital threshold to inflict real-world, kinetic devastation. The unmasking began not in a heavily guarded government war room, but on the glowing screens of independent cybersecurity researchers scattered across the globe. In the summer of 2010, an obscure security firm in Belarus stumbled upon a strange anomaly in a client's network. It was a single, fragile digital thread pulling at the fabric of the internet. The file size was massive, far larger than any typical malware, hinting at a staggering complexity. As researchers began to pull back, unraveling the code line by agonizing line, they stared into the abyss of a weapon unlike anything humanity had ever forged. It was a digital labyrinth filled with false paths and encrypted payloads designed to confuse and exhaust anyone attempting to understand its true purpose. The architecture of the worm was a masterclass in covert infiltration and sustained deception. It utilized a staggering 4 zero-day exploits, which are unknown vulnerabilities in software that give attackers a free pass into a system before the creators even realize the door is unlocked. It bypassed the initial heavily fortified security perimeter of the facility, often hitching a ride on a simple, unassuming USB thumb drive dropped casually in a parking lot or handed to an unsuspecting external contractor. From there, it crept through the network, meticulously hiding its tracks, waiting patiently for the perfect moment to strike. Once inside the target environment, it sought out specific Siemens SCADA systems, the supervisory control and data acquisition software used to manage complex industrial machinery. The code did not immediately destroy its target upon arrival. Instead, it observed in silence a digital predator learning its prey. It recorded the normal, steady operating frequencies of the centrifuges for weeks, learning the exact rhythm and heartbeat of the facility. Then it played those recordings back to the operators on an endless, comforting loop, while simultaneously sending the actual machines into a fatal, chaotic spin. The betrayer had learned the victim's intimate routines, only to use them as a flawless camouflage for sabotage. It was the ultimate betrayal of trust between human and machine, turning the very instruments of control into instruments of deception. This level of unprecedented sophistication pointed a glaring spotlight away from rogue hackers and directly toward the shadow-draped corridors of nation-states. The sheer financial cost of development, the deep intelligence required to precisely map the Natanz facility, and the flawless execution of the code suggested the combined, formidable might of superpowers. It was widely understood by the intelligence community to be the offspring of Operation Olympic Games, a covert, highly classified campaign initiated by the United States and Israel. The objective was chillingly clear: cripple the Iranian nuclear ambition without ever firing a single conventional shot or risking a pilot's life. Yet the deployment of this weapon fractured the foundational trust that underpinned the modern, interconnected world. By crossing the Rubicon from quiet digital espionage to violent physical sabotage, the architects of this operation fundamentally altered the rules of global engagement. They proved, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that critical infrastructure, the very lifeblood of a nation's power grid, water supply, and transportation networks, could be quietly dismantled from thousands of miles away. The long-held sanctuary of the offline, air-gapped world was gone forever. The illusion of absolute control shattered violently when the code escaped its intended isolated cage. Stuxnet was designed to be highly targeted, programmed with a kill switch to self-destruct if it found itself on a machine that did not match the exact, precise profile of the Iranian control systems. But digital weapons are notoriously difficult to leash once released into the wild. An error in the code, a slight miscalculation by its creators, or perhaps an unauthorized modification caused the worm to break free from the facility, spreading wildly and uncontrollably across the global internet. As the rogue code infected hundreds of thousands of computers worldwide, the invisible, silent war was suddenly dragged into the blinding, unforgiving light of public scrutiny. The architects of the attack watched in silent horror as their masterpiece was dissected, reverse-engineered, and analyzed by the very global community they had sought to bypass. The ultimate secret was out. The blueprint for the world's first true cyber weapon was now available to anyone with the expertise to read it, including rival nations, terrorist organizations, and rogue syndicates looking for a new kind of power. The psychological fallout of this global revelation rippled far beyond the borders of the Middle East. It ignited a profound collective anxiety among governments, corporations, and civilians alike. The terrifying realization that an unseen, untraceable enemy could silently infiltrate the systems that keep modern society functioning bred a new kind of existential dread. Security experts suddenly realized that the same vulnerable SCADA systems controlling the Natanz facility were also managing water treatment plants in Europe, power grids in North America, and transportation networks in Asia. Trust in the digital infrastructure that governed daily life evaporated almost overnight. Every flickering screen, every routine software update, every anomalous system crash was now viewed through a lens of deep, unshakable suspicion. The victims of this digital assault did not simply absorb the blow and retreat into the shadows. The sabotage accelerated a dangerous, unseen arms race in the dark corners of cyberspace. Iran, humiliated and enraged by the invisible intrusion into their most secure facility, rapidly and aggressively expanded its own cyber warfare capabilities. The attack that was meant to delay a physical conflict instead catalyzed a new era of relentless digital retaliation. Financial institutions, energy companies, and government networks across the globe soon found themselves under constant siege from a newly emboldened, highly capable adversary seeking its own form of justice. The legacy of this operation is permanently written in the corrupted code and shattered trust of the digital age. It serves as a chilling, undeniable testament to the lengths to which powers will go to achieve their geopolitical objectives, operating in a murky, moral gray area where the traditional lines between espionage, sabotage, and outright acts of war are deliberately and continuously blurred. The architects of the worm believed they were executing a precise, surgical strike, a clean, bloodless alternative to the devastating reality of military intervention. But the concept of a bloodless war proved to be a dangerous, short-sighted illusion. By weaponizing the very systems that connect humanity, they opened a digital Pandora's box that can never be closed. The sophisticated tools of digital deception are now permanently embedded in the global arsenal, waiting silently in the dark corners of the internet for the next conflict to ignite. The silent destruction at Natanz was not the end of a localized dispute. It was the terrifying opening salvo in a perpetual, invisible war. As the echoes of those shattered centrifuges fade into history, the profound questions they raised continue to haunt the corridors of power and the minds of security experts. How do you effectively defend a nation against an enemy you cannot see, an enemy that leaves no physical footprints? How do you hold the brilliant, shadowy architects of digital sabotage accountable when the only evidence is written in evaporating, easily manipulated data? The pursuit of truth in this deeply compromised landscape is a relentless, unforgiving task, demanding a constant, exhausting vigilance against the ever-present shadows. Ultimately, the story of this cyber weapon is a stark, urgent warning about the extreme fragility of our modern, interconnected existence. It reveals the terrifying, inherent vulnerability of the systems we blindly trust with our lives, our economies, and our national security. The code may have been specifically designed to target cold, unfeeling machines, but its true, lasting victim was the fragile human illusion of security. The Rubicon of cyber warfare has been irrevocably crossed, and there is no turning back from the silent, devastating reality of a world where betrayal is just a keystroke away.